So good afternoon, participants. Welcome to this session on Buy and Build East Africa. My name is Dr. Anastasia Nyalita, the current Kenya Healthcare Federation Chief Executive Officer. And the Kenya Healthcare Federation is the health sector board of Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Basically, it's the apex body for the health practitioners and health practitioners and health sector players. We provide a platform for engaging the government from a private sector perspective. So for today, so I'm a pharmacist by profession. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry for more than 20 years, mainly in the sub-Saharan African countries. Very passionate about pharmaceutical manufacturing. I'm glad that you have found time to join us today. And with me today is a panel of experts. I will give them an opportunity to say a little bit about themselves. But I would also want to recognize that this webinar is brought to us courtesy of the Federation of East African Pharmaceutical Manufacturers in collaboration with the Federation of Kenya Pharmaceutical Manufacturers, FKPM, the Uganda Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, UPMA, and Tanzania Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. So feel very welcome. As you might expect that our panelists are also experts from the region. So we will have panelists from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. Jennifer, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Anastasia, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Engineer Jennifer Gache, working at the East African community comprising 6 countries as Industrial Development Advisor. And my work has been to bring together, to harmonize the policies within the ESC and also to bring about policy coherence between the objectives of the health sector, which is to promote access to medicines, and the policies of industrial development, which is to use the pharmaceutical sector to develop economically. So basically my presentation will be based on what we've been doing at the regional level. Thank you.
My name is Engineer Biarwanga Deo. I work with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives as a principal engineer, but I'm also responsible for pharmaceutical production in Uganda. And at the ESC level, I coordinate the ESC Regional Pharmaceutical Action Plan of Action, where we are trying to improve the local pharmaceutical manufacturing and encouraging local consumption of our products that are manufactured from here.
Thank you, Anastasia. I'm Serge Nyambaire, and I'm investment promotion lead within the Rwanda Development Board. So the Rwanda Development Board is a government department that integrates all government agencies responsible for the attraction and retention and facilitation of investments in the national economy. And me, I'm specifically sector lead on the health sector, which includes also the pharmaceutical subsector. And the idea is to put in place the right incentives, the right attractive policies to attract specific investments in the pharmaceutical sector, which we'll be talking about in details later on. Thanks.
My name is Hitesh. I come from Tanzania. I'm basically a pharmaceuticals executive. I have been working in the sector for last 30 years. And for last 15 years, I am in this part of the continent, ESC. I have been associated in many forums where we promote and support local pharmaceuticals industry. So I would be talking about what kind of value addition local industry is doing to the region, what kind of challenges we have, and what could be the right way forward that I would be bringing up onto the board later this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists and participants. There you are with the great panelists on our session today. I want to put a question to the panelists, maybe, like someone like Iteshi, who has, over 30 years of experience in the industry in India and in Kenya and Tanzania. How would you address the issue of, moving people from the neutral to actually appreciating and buying locally produced products? Maybe you can give us a few perspective or insights from your experience.
As an industry, we have been working for quite some time now on this perception issue. To be very frank, if my product is registered in Kenya, Uganda, or Tanzania, so it is being approved by the local regulatory authority. So by no way my product is of lower quality than a product from India, China, or Europe. Okay, there has to be a standard for any of the NMRA. Then only my product is being approved to sell in the country. Now the perception is, it is very. In fact, I will go a bit further. If I go to any shop in Tanzania, they will rate Kenyan product better than the Tanzanian product. Okay, that is the perception of the Wananchi perception of the patient. So as far as the, it is not only the industry, it is all together, the NMRA, the Ministry of Health, we all have to work for a campaign where we can establish that the local product is no less than a product which is imported from Asia or Europe. So it is not that our quality is lesser than those product of, the only issue sometimes is on packing.
Thank you, Hiteshi. As experts, we know, as the pharmacists or the medical doctors, they know that is the end user. How do we get to that information to the end user? Not a question for answering now, but as we go on towards the end, we'll see how can we tell our story more so that we sell, build Kenya or build East Africa, buy East Africa, buy East Africa, build East Africa, because very clearly the knowledge, the awareness gap is there. And there's always this perception that international is good. So, as we go along, I hope we can also address that. And now I want to hand it over to Jennifer to take us through the regional policy dimensions. So Jennifer, over to you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. And having worked in the sector, maybe I can say that there is an information gap between the people who are prescribing or buying medicines and what is actually happening in the industry. Because in the last few years, the quality of the medicines that are being manufactured in the region have really improved. And this is because of a number of interventions that have been undertaken both at national and regional levels, including the implementation of a number of policies. For instance, there's been a very strong program on medicines regulation harmonization that has taken place. And this particular program really improved the regulatory space in the region and also brought together both the regulators and the manufacturers. So at this point in East Africa, the regulators are working very closely with the manufacturers to ensure that the products which are being manufactured are safe and efficacious. And this particular information has not yet reached to the consumers very well, hence that kind of a perception that they have. And this is ongoing in that corrective actions are being made where possible. So having said that, let me go to my presentation, which is focusing on the policy incentive package. And just to say that this policy incentive package is being undertaken as part of the implementation of the East African Community Regional Pharmaceutical Plan of Action, which is also embedded within the East African Community Industrialization Policy and Strategy, where we aim to see to it that the citizens of East Africa has access to medicine, but also the economies of the region are developed. So our manufacturers are very keen to expand their investments and also their production. But one of the biggest issues they wanted to be addressed is the issue of the market access. And that's why the issue of the incentives come about. What I would like to say is that as we undertake our work, we do not work in isolation, but we undertake benchmarking with other countries that have undertaken some measures with levels of success. And I can give an example of a country like Bangladesh. So actually the EAC has benchmarked with Bangladesh, India, and also Ghana. So in this specific presentation, I will talk about Ghana and some of the incentive measures that Ghana put into place that saw them improve their sector. So they had a corporate tax exemption for 3 years after an industry establishes, and they actually put an import ban on 44 medicines and that VAT exemptions for all the raw materials and all the excipients that are being used in the pharmaceutical sector. And 66 of the 200 basic materials required for production were exempted from import duty, and local manufacturers were given a price preference of 15%. So when the country undertook these incentives, there was an increase of companies from 9 to 39, which is a very huge jump. And the number of substandard and counterfeit medicine dropped from 40% to 3%, which means that probably it was much more easier for the regulatory authority to inspect and see what was going on. And there was a trade balance improved, whereby the imports dropped from 90% to 70%, and there was an increase in employment from 150 to 6,500. So at the East African community also, we see there's too much importations of medicines. That is over 70% of the medicines are being imported, and we have a target in the plan of action to reduce this importation from 70% to 50%. But we would also like to see that the product portfolio is able to support more disease conditions. So currently, the product portfolio is only supporting 66% of the diseases conditions, which means that if we close our borders, we will not be able to cater for 36% disease conditions. But we want this to go to at least 90% over a 10-year time frame. And then we also have our national procurement agencies. We would wish them to at least purchase 50% of their purchases from products that are manufactured locally, and if this work, then our sector, our manufacturing sector, can actually invest more and produce more advanced formulations. Because at the moment we just have most of the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in East Africa are basically producing more or less the same products. So what kind of package have we been proposing? And this is what we've worked together ourselves, together with the private sector. Of course, there's the issue of the price preference, where we are proposing a margin of 20% for all the regionally produced medicine and medical devices in public tenders. And when we talk about regionally produced, we would like the region to take any country from East Africa should be called local. Currently, at the moment, there is the price preference by each country, but each country just offers a price preference to its respective countries, and they don't treat the other countries as special or as local, but they treat them as if they're the rest of the world. When it comes to tax incentives also, we would like there to be no duties on imports of raw and packaging materials, pharmaceutical manufacturing related equipment, as well as spares for this equipment. A number of these incentives have also already been offered, like when it comes to manufacturing equipment, but we need to see more in other materials as well. And then there is the import classification, whereby if the region is able to produce enough products, then those products should be restricted. And we were proposing that this restriction come in terms of the common external tariff. Currently in East Africa community, all medicines come in at zero tariff. But what we are discussing with the other sectors like the trade and customs is that there are some areas where the region has enough capacity, and really some of these medicines needs to be taxed. Their importation needs to be taxed. So as part of implementing this incentive framework, we embarked on a verification mission last year, and this mission was taken together with the ESC, our partners, who are the GIZ, GFA, and so it was the team comprises of the inspectors from the medicines regulatory, national medicines agencies who really know what is happening, and the manufacturers themselves. So the mission was to confirm the local production capacity, to look at the competitiveness and the availability, and look at the issues of market access. And a list had been worked on by the manufacturers. They agreed amongst themselves that these particular products we have here, amoxicillin all the way to ciprofloxacin, they have agreed that the region has sufficient capacities to produce these medicines, and the verification mission actually confirmed that indeed everything that is required to produce these medicines are available. There is the production capacity in terms of quantity and also quality. Furthermore, there is scope for expansion, because currently most of the plants that are manufacturing pharmaceutical product in the region, and the facilities are regularly audited and adhere to the regulatory requirements. And I mean, this is something that is there because if it was not being done, then it means that the regulators are not doing their job. But actually, they are really doing their job, and they're making sure that all the medicines that are being manufactured are adhering to the regulatory requirements. Some of these situations can be overturned because when I talked about the VAT, we noted that imported packaging material is VAT, so that this time is reduced. And we noted that 5 companies stopped producing beta-lactams due to cheap imports from India and China. So this is not good for us because we are moving towards more manufacturing. So what was the recommendation? The recommendation is that because we don't want to shock the system, because we would also like, we don't want the East Africans to miss medicine. So our recommendation is, can we start with the 8 molecules to be accorded preferential treatment, and then we introduce a common external tariff for the selected 8 molecules, and then we watch how the market is going to react, whether we will have more production, more companies coming in, and then also what has been done at the region is a task force has been put into place that is going to undertake a regular review of all these, and also look at issues of pricing, because of course pricing becomes very critical to the consumers, and the issues of market manipulation and guard, and also continue to promote adherence to the good manufacturing practices. And then also we would like VAT and duty for locally manufactured packaging materials to be completely abolished. And then we would want the procurement agencies in the region to harmonize their procurement laws so that they respect Article 35 of the Common Market Protocol and treat any manufacturer in the region as a local manufacturer. And then also all the national medicines procurement agencies to accord the preferential treatment. And then also as a region, we fast track the implementation and scale up of the medicines regulation harmonization. So we believe that if we put those measures into place, we would attract more investments. But also it is good for me to say at this point that currently in the region, we are having a number of investors who are interested in investing, and maybe the national experts can tell us, but in each country, we have at least an average of 2 to 4 manufacturers, 2 to 4 new companies who want to come and set up in the region, which means that the region will even have a stronger base for having local products. And if I can just comment on the earlier presentation, the issue of availability of product has come up, because there have been instances, the national procurement agencies have informed us that yes, they did give the manufacturers an opportunity to bring their products to supply, but the manufacturers were not able to really supply as and when required. So I think this is also an area that needs to be looked into, whether there can be some kind of framework contracts that can give the manufacturers sufficient times to arrange themselves so that they can be able to meet the supply. But also, so if you can't supply the consumer, then the consumer will not be very consistent with procuring the required product. So alongside the incentives that we're talking about, we have also been working on the East African Community Pharmaceutical Bill. So this particular bill is anchored within both the health treaty, the treaty that promises access to medicine, and also the industrial development treaty that aims to develop the sector. So we are promoting the coherence between the health policies, the manufacturing policies, and also the trade and custom policies. So this bill basically strengthens the work of local production by providing a regulatory framework.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that insightful updates and information on the regional policy. Interesting incentives that are proposed. It's good to know that there's an East African Farmer Bill that is in making. From a business perspective, business and investors' perspective, how is that policy? How viable is that policy? How do you see it as an investor? What are the things that you see? And I'm interested also to learn more, and I'm sure the participants would also want to know about the Ghana case study, because I have had, within Africa, I think it's only Ghana, potentially Ethiopia, they have industrial parks. So maybe when you speak about the business and investment parks or any of the panelists, you can also just mention that perspective. So over to you, Dale.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Anastasia. As I said, I'm focal point. We develop policies or we implement policies in relationship with the ESC community. At the national level, we've been implementing the GMP framework. GMP is a good manufacturing practice, and here is where we are trying to improve the quality of our locally manufactured medicines. With support of GIZ, we were able to do an audit of all the pharmaceutical industries, both here in Uganda, but also in all other parts of the region, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Sudan. But from the audit itself, we found out that actually our products are of quality. We just need to improve on a little bit. Although we have some manufacturers who are already pre-qualified, we would want everyone to reach that level of quality. Then we have also tried to improve medical registration and regulation, whereby we came up with a regional harmonization. If you registered your drug in Kenya through that harmonization process, you don't have to register it in another country, or it will be registered once, but for all countries. We have also done a number of capacity building for both our local pharmaceutical manufacturers and the regulators. Of course, most of them are with the support of GIZ. These are all in to enhance the capacity of our local manufacturing. We have done also a number of research studies, both in policy cohesion, but also in medicines, and come up with a number of products. Even during COVID, they are still doing a number of researches, probably maybe to come up with even herbal medicines that can be used to cure some of these diseases, including COVID. We also do a number of inspections. These are yearly inspections in order to give certification for our manufacturers. But this is at a national level. We are trying to come up with a state-of-art laboratory, which we are putting in place so that we are able to do a lot of tests on the drugs we manufacture to meet all the requirements. We also working on a project to set up an industrial park specifically for pharmaceutical manufacturing, and we are working with the United Kingdom investors who are interested in supporting this activity. We would want to have a place where if you are interested in pharmaceutical manufacturing, you come and find the facilities ready. You only come with your equipment and others.
Thank you, Dale. Very interesting to know that you already have the concept of industrial park. And I'm assuming this is only in Uganda. Maybe you can speak a little bit more into it, just for the purposes of the audience.
As I said, this is still a project we are setting up to have an industrial park for pharmaceutical manufacturers only. We have industrial park that are for other industries. But pharmacy has its own stringent requirements and does not encourage any other neighbor to come around. You cannot put a pharmacy and a cement factory together, or pharmacy and other. They have special requirements. So because of those stringent requirements, we are proposing to set up an industrial park specific for pharmaceutical manufacturers. But still a project in pipeline. We are yet to see its implementation.
Okay, thank you for that insight. And I now want to turn it over to Mr. Serge to talk about, in business and investment. As an investor, what is the approach to the pharmaceutical sector? Over to you, Serge.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. So as just Dio said, we are also focusing on actually putting in place special economic zones for pharmaceutical manufacturing, and we already have a dedicated zone in phase 2 of Bugesera Special Economic Zone. So I really wanted to have a more, macroeconomic approach to this first. To give you an example, we realized that, some researchers did research, and we covered this as well within the Rwanda Development Board. The Africa as a market is the fastest growing pharma, market within the entire world, and is expected to reach up to $60 billion value within in 2022. This was done prior to COVID-19, so I believe that figures have changed in between. And we also know that within the Africa Union, pharmaceuticals sector is priority number 3. So it's really, at African level, it's already something very strategic and very specific that we are working on. The regional market, and if I'm talking about the regional market here, specifically for Rwanda and East Africa, but also including the neighboring country like Congo, which has an amazing untapped, consumption power, I would say. It's a very virgin market, I would say. That nearby market represents up to $200 million people. So this gives a bit of an understanding of the potential of the market. And as I believe the previous presenters said, the demand within the continent is still highly imported, right? So average of 70% within the African continent. And then when it comes to Rwanda, it's even higher. We're talking about 98% imported pharmaceutical products and equipment. These numbers will be lower soon, because just this year we registered 2 extra pharma manufacturing companies in the country, and we believe that we support on changing this trend of importing most of our medicines. And within the region again, we realized that pharma expenditures have doubled since 2010, reaching up to $4 billion in 2024. So again, this is to show the potentiality of the market, and most of the governments, as you well mentioned, are pushing for a strong pharma manufacturing industry to tackle dependency on imports. Challenges are still there, but at least the political will is already in place when it comes to the region and Rwanda specifically. So, as in to show the several factors that are driving the growth of the sector in Rwanda, but also it can be applied to the entire continent and the region, of course. The demand, as I mentioned, is growing. So we have a galloping urbanization and change in lifestyle within our cities, in our countries. Most of, we have more people in the cities now. Africa is becoming more urbanized than what it used to be, let's say, 20 years ago. And there is also an increasing in life expectancy at continental level, has reached 10 years extra to what it used to be 15 years ago. We also know that Africa carries up to 30% of world's diseases burden, which means that there's room for pharma, for a growing and very capable pharma sector within the continent itself. We have also an increasing number of aid programs that are now looking into actually purchasing directly from local pharmaceutical manufacturers than what they used to do back in the days, importing most of the medicines that the continent is looking for. So for specifically for Rwanda, the local market is quite relatively small. We realized that last year we spent around $100 million, for importing mostly medicines and pharma equipments. We might be in the same region or community, but again, when it comes to private sector, most of the time they don't believe in that. They all want to have their share of the market more than the other. So this is a reality. We have an existing non-tariff barriers within the region itself, but also, countries like Congo, where you have a big potential, but again, you have all these issues when it comes to security and all those aspects limits, the capabilities to tap into those opportunities. And this comes to clinical trials, be very high-end clinical trials centers in, put them in place in the country, to attract more investors in those areas, to make the difference in the region, but also in the continent. Put in place diagnostics and labs for testing. And the COVID-19 has showed us that this is something that is very much needed for every country. And once you start, being good at this, I think that there's room for, medical tourism and every other stuff related to this. So after realizing these challenges and, putting in place some priorities, we are, trying to become actually a health innovation hub and leader in health-related and pharma-related, solutions. So a good example would be Zipline. I think maybe you heard of it, which was now it's been here for 5 years, I believe, the first company to deliver life-saving medical supplies and blood, by drones. That was the first within the world. Actually, we have drones that drop bombs, but us, we focused on more medical supplies. And this specific company started as a startup in Rwanda. And we know, in a partnership, and again, we're creating these, private-public partnerships. We ended up, making sure that this startup ends up, gaining market first within Rwanda, gaining, image value, and being renowned worldwide. So they were able to be implemented in Ghana, and back in the US, they were able to be valued, I think last year, if I'm not wrong, or the previous year, 2019, they were valued at 1.2 billion, at the stock market, which is quite a big success story. Another example would be Babel, that is also in partnership with Rwanda government. It's a sort of digital platform that provides combining, technology with the knowledge and experience of the best doctors, but this is done online or through SMSs, where you can check yourself and have a response, directly from online from a doctor who is on the platform. And most of these opportunities are covered by a universal coverage system that is implemented in Rwanda. I believe 94% of health expenditures are covered, by are covered in the country. Sorry, fully, mostly subsidized, but this is also an attractive case for any pharma manufacturing company, knowing that at least you'll be able to cover your operations because the government is subsidizing a lot of, of the healthcare costs that the population is going through. And I will maybe say the last would be lifting and empowerment of families. This is a company that is mostly focused on research and development, and they are really specific on cancer treatment and diagnostics. And this is the kind of, let's say, subsectors of the pharma sector we are trying to really focus on to make sure that we make a difference. Not putting on side the generics. We already have, you can see a list of companies that already implemented on the, in the country, producing, beta-lactam, non-beta-lactam antibiotics, and also, I'll say consumables like syringes and, blood infusion and transfusion sets that's already in the country. So we try to put in place incentives, but also make sure that we make a difference as a country and really tap into that untapped opportunities. I think I'll stop here, and I'm very thankful for your time.
So maybe, Hitesh, you can give us your presentation and maybe just make some remarks, based on the presentations so far that have been made by the other presenters.
Okay. So what I was talking about, that we have a population of close to 200 million as far as the market is concerned. And the market size, if we think it would be between the estimated market size is between 1.5 to 2 billion USD in all EAC put together. As far as the industry is concerned, industry in the region is very old. So the industry was started at the right time, but we could not big the way it should have been grown. That was a time when the industry has started in India also, but now where is India and where is East Africa? So we are quite behind compared to, we started well, but somehow then we could not keep the pace. Reasons are many, but still we have a lot of scope as of now to grow. Only, out of these facilities, only 40 to 50% capacities are being used. So, and most of these facilities are being run only one shift. So capacity is not a big issue overall. The big issue is market access, for which Jennifer has already taken up the point that what we should be doing to get the market access for the local manufacturing. More about East Africa Pharma, if you see 2017, the industry was around 323 million. And, we are talking about RPM POA, which is regional regional pharmaceutical manufacturing plan of action, for which the team, including Jennifer, have been working for long. And that plan is talking about having 50% production, pharma production within the region by 2027. So if that happens, the market would be, we would have a market capitalization of 3.18 million by 2027. However, as industry, we think that we will have a growth rate of 15%, and with that, we will have a market of around 1.3 billion by 2027. Okay, what we offer as a private local manufacturing company, we offer a lot of employment. As of 2017, around 8,000 plus employees were there among these companies, and out of that, 29% were the university graduates. So we, the private sector, the pharmaceutical sector, give employment to a lot of people, and with those projections, we will have employment of 79,000 more jobs would be available through the RPM POA way, when we may get that 50% share from the local manufacturing. But the industry thinks that we will have around 34,000 new jobs by 2027. That is what industry has a feeling. And we attract a lot of FDI. By 2010, the investment in private sector was around 130 million, which would be 140 million more in time to come. Even in across the region, many new companies are coming, whether it is Kenya, whether it is Tanzania, whether it is Uganda. So it is an attractive sector for the investors, and it is a growing sector, so the investors are coming here. We are having only 140 million export among EAC countries. That is one sector where there is a lot of scope of growth, because among these 7 countries, if we get a better market, we can grow much faster as a EAC company. Why support local manufacturing in EAC? There are two broad reasons I would say. Number one is the local manufacturing improves the access of medicine to the Wananchi. And number two, the local manufacturing also boosts regional economy. I would like to go into detail of these points. And the health benefit of local manufacturing is it reduces dependency and it improves sustainability. If you see today, we are so much dependent on outside. I will give you the recent example of COVID, when the supply chain was disrupted from Asia, basically from China and India. We were in such a problem that we were not having so many input material, and we were not able to manufacture quite a few medication that time, because either we were not having some kind of raw material or we were not having some kind of packaging material. Apart from that, we are so much dependent on donors if our local industry is self-sufficient, we will not have those kind of dependency on external sources, and the region would be self-sufficient with the assistance of the local manufacturing. The other point, we need to take the advantage of TRIPS flexibility, because for least development countries, TRIPS have a lot of advantage, and we can use those advantages so that we can support the local industry, and we can do some kind of ban on the importation products, so that we will have a better market accessibility for the locally produced product. The economic benefit, as I have told, that if we are bringing something from outside, it needs just a distributor, and that distributor may have 5, 7, 10 people maximum, and with those people, the business can run. But when it comes to an industry, we employ a lot of people, which again boost to the local economy. There are so many other industries which we support when we manufacture products in the region than the imported product. And with the other advantage with the local production, that we would be saving a lot of export. We would be having a lot of export earnings. Today, we are having only say 300 to 400 million kind of local production. If that production goes to 1 billion, we would be saving that much of export earnings, that much of the dollars. As we all know that the pharma industry is a high value industry, and it attracts a lot of investment. As the kind of steps we are taking to support the industry, as and when we have a better playing ground, more investors will come to the region, and we will have a bigger industry, and we will have a higher financial viability with this industry to investors outside the region also. Local production, local pharma industry supports the growth of a high value industry. Pharma industry, as we all know, is the third largest sector, pharma sector. So the sector is big, but the industry is slow. Industry is small. So we need to support this particular industry so that the kind of sector it is and the kind of industry it should match. And it strengthens independence. We don't have to look for anybody outside the region for the particular product. Even many of you would know that what kind of issues we had to get the mask and all those things in this COVID period, which is a very, very simple product, but we were not having any manufacturer when COVID started. Now there are quite a few people who are manufacturing. So if we have more products, maybe few of more ARV products, few of more pre-qualified anti-malaria products, we don't have to see outside region for our own requirement, and it will boost overall economy of the region. So I will conclude with this statement by Michel Sidbe, who says that the time for Africa to break its dependence on foreign imports is now. The local manufacture of pharmaceuticals in Africa is an opportunity to develop a broader manufacturing and knowledge-based economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hitesh, for that private sector perspective. We can see that, not only is this bringing in foreign direct investments, but also, knowledge transfer, technology transfer, access, decreasing the, level of counterfeits in the country, in the region, and so on and so forth. And I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that it's a very lucrative industry. So I think now, in the interest of time, we've just been monitoring the chats. We've had very many positive comments about the session. So what I would like to do, because we're just spot on time, I will ask each of the panelists, unless there are any questions, if you look at the chat, just see if there's any comments that you'd like to address. But at the same time, maybe you can give your parting shots, from your area of expertise, from a regional perspective, and in particular, build buy East Africa, build East Africa. Is that how soon? Is that a vision that is achievable, and how soon? So I just want to start the same way we started. I will ask. I'm not sure if Maggie is back online, but as we wait for her to log in back, so we can start with Jennifer. You can also react to some of the comments from the panelists, our colleague panelists, and also any other perspective that you would like to bring up as a parting shot. Jennifer?
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Can you hear me? I need to confirm.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Yeah, the presentations have been very interesting this afternoon. And when you look at them, you can see the way they all come together. They're very consistent. I mean, if we look at the first presentation, actually the results of the survey are, can I say they're much better than what I expected? It comes out very clearly that that the East Africans have a fairly positive perception about the medicines that are produced locally. It's not that of course they see as the imported medicine is better, but they also see like the locally produced medicine is okay. And as Maggie said, there are some areas like painkillers where the East Africans have definitely have the confidence in the medicine that is produced locally. So I think this is something that needs to be worked on and leveraged, and the perception of the consumers needs to be aligned with what is going on in the region in terms of the improvement when it comes to quality and safety and efficacy of the medicines. From the case of Rwanda, yeah, it is very, very good to see that you are going for, can I call it a niche kind of strategy where you don't want to go into what is crowded. As I said earlier, it's like most manufacturers are more or less doing the same thing. And actually, when you look at the plan of action, it pushes for going into into areas that are much more advanced formulations. So what Rwanda is the direction you're moving. In some cases, you're moving towards even medical devices. I think this points to very, very positive because I mean, if you can be in some specialized areas, you can always buy the other medicines from the regional pool, and then you provide the specialized requirements also to the regional pool. So I think it would be good for more countries to move along that direction. Also for Dio from the Ugandan side, I think you did mention some kind of incentive that was introduced there by Uganda, Build Uganda, that actually saw a number of manufacturing industries in Uganda even producing to capacities of 70 to even 90%. So, I mean, that is just a confirmation that if the government puts into place these incentives that we are talking about, we shall see the productions going up. Also, Itesh, you have given us a very, very good scenarios about how if we grow, the way we grow, the kind of market capitalization and employment that we can see in the region. And I think this gives a very strong documentary proof to the governments of East Africa why they should support local manufacturing, because I mean the gains that the region can get from bigger, much more double-digit growth could be much more than, I mean, like you're talking about employing up to 79,000 people in the pharmaceutical sector if the region grows at almost 25% or something. But I think it points to what can be gained. So what I can say, Anastasia, is that region is moving in the right direction in this sector, but there's still more work that needs to be done. And those two areas are improving the consumer perception, and also in terms of the government really aligning and really supporting the sector to grow. Otherwise, from the private sector, they're ready. So really the hand of the government is really required. So that's what I would say for now. So it's a very positive move for the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for those insights. And I'm sure also the other colleagues on the panel will also have build on that as well. So a question that I'm sure, I hope the business and investment, Mr. Saj and Hitesh, you can also address is the question of what has been done to improve perception of local quality, locally produced painkillers. What can we learn from for other products and therapeutic areas. So as you address that, your parting shot, also try as much as possible to comment on that. And now we go to Dio. You could make your comments and parting shots.
Okay, the presentations have been good. We've really enjoyed them. And I want to also emphasize what Hitesh has said, that in some of the products, the issue is not the capacity, but the market. Our factories are around 40% production capacity, or slightly about 50%. So we really need to address the issue of market access. Like Jennifer said, or the question you have posed, how are we going to deal with the perception issue among our local people? Is something we need to come up with answers yesterday, so that they can take up these medicines and these companies can produce up to capacity. But in terms of quality, we are still okay, although we still have some minor challenges of chemical references, standards, and so on. But these are being addressed. So let's put our heads together to address the issue of perceptions, both in the local populations, but in governments as well, because I think Jennifer noted it that most governments look as local as their own governments, but other partner states in the region are not considered local. So we need to address this issue of perception, both in the population, but also in governments as well. I think that's where I can leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. And now, Mr. Serge.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. So I think Jennifer and Dio did summarize quite, perfectly what we've been discussing about. Just for the sake of having final remarks, especially on the perception aspect, I would maybe talk about the Made in Rwanda campaign that we've been putting in place for quite 2 to 3 years now. It's a campaign, telling making the general population understand the beauty of consuming Rwanda, So this can be applied to any other sector. So I think every country can learn from that and try to, can be through radio, through comedies, short movies, short films, to make sure that, that pride is back there and, local consumption is good, is put in place. And again, for this to happen, we also need to make sure that we can be able to harmonize our, I would say, standards and, all these standard systems, within the region, making sure that they're harmonized, and whenever a product or a service, let's talk about products, is safe in one country, then quite automatically another country can go for it and start importing that product. So I would end up saying that the potential is there. I mean, we showed some numbers, so it's up to us to really make sure that we focus on our inequalities within the region. And, as they say in Swahili, matunda iko mbele. I think everyone understands that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saj. And Mr. Hitesh, as you wrap up, also there is a question that has come up, prospect for pharma industrialization.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anastasia. I would pick from the Jennifer's comment that region is moving in the right direction. Region is definitely moving in the right direction, but the speed is a bit slow. For having a better speed, a lot of political support and political will is required, because everybody in all the spheres knows what are the issues and what are the remedies. Now the implementation is not more from the private sector; it is more of a it has to come from the government, I would say. So there we are lacking, I think, because when we are talking about ESG, we have 7 governments and 7 ministries of maybe Ministry of Health, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Finance. So it's a bit complicated, but we need to move faster for a better infrastructure and for the private sector. That is what I understand. Okay. Number two, I'm seeing a message there that the private sector needs to launch campaign to change the local medicine perception. Okay. So it has to be a combined effort to change the perception. Only as a company or as a private sector, I believe it is a Herculean task for the industry to do it. It has to come as a package with all the stakeholders. Okay. Then our main issue always remains with the market access, because we have the capacities, but our competitors from Asia, we are not able to compete. That is the main reason of sector not growing. For that, whatever Jennifer has told, the kind of support or the kind of incentives are being proposed. If those incentives can be put in place at a sooner time, the industry will grow faster. With this, I have these things to submit. One more point about Emmanuel's point. We have the industrial pharmacy in most of the pharmacy colleges. The only thing, because what I understand after working in the sector, because as a pharmacist, I don't see a good career in industrial pharmacy. I don't opt that. I go to the community pharmacy. Okay, so I believe this industrial pharmacy is there with Muhimbili also, with Dodoma also, in Tanzania, I know. So it is not that the course is not there. Course is there, but the takers are not there because of they don't see that there is a big career in that. Okay. So here again, the industry role is there. Here again, the role of the overall infrastructure, overall ecosystem is there. Thank you very much. Any other point, any other question for me? I'm welcome.
Thank you, Hitesh. So the can see private sector needs to launch campaigns to change local medicine's perceptions. Yes, that is a critical comment. Joint efforts of all stakeholders, that is very important. Also, that has been highlighted by the members. We have addressed the question of what can be done to improve perception. I think we have to tell our story and tell it very well, because if we hear the stories from the different countries as told today, then the public need to know. Yes,
I'm remembering one story here. Let me just share that story. This story is from one of the major pharmaceutical manufacturers. I think Mr. Palu is there in the group also right now. What I heard that they used to be the importer of the products from Asia. Okay, so once they went to the particular facility and they have seen what kind of production is happening. I'm not sure, Mr. Palu, whether it is right or wrong, but I have heard this story. So they saw the kind of production the particular facility is doing. It is pathetic. That's how they came back and they put Universal in Kenya. That is a story I have heard quite a few years back. So, when I am producing here, things are in front of me. When I am bringing something from outside, I don't know how the other gentleman is producing. But the perception is that product is better than my product which I am producing here.
Yes, and that's a message we need to make sure that it's brought in the proper perspective, because as long as we don't talk, then nobody will tell our story. So we have to push our story. So with that, I would like I just have seen an additional comment from, you mentioned Palu, and I can see the team is online, and they said that we've also had a huge success story of supplying items within almost 12 countries in Africa during the COVID pandemic, whereas other countries relied on imports from outside the continent have suffered severe shortages during the same period. So those are some of the things that, we really have to amplify our story, because we're doing a lot of good stuff on the whatever, where there are gaps, we know how to fix them. And if we pull together as a region, we can really achieve a milestone. And now with the African Continental Free Trade Area, then it only makes the market a lot more attractive. And as a business strategist colleague has mentioned, that Africa is the fastest growing pharmaceutical market in the world. So we must take advantage of that ourselves internally as Africans and East Africans for that matter, rather than leaving it to outsiders to benefit by exporting products into our markets. So with that, I would like to bring this session to a close and thank you very much. I would like to thank all participants in the East African region. I would like to thank all sponsors and facilitators. I would like to thank the stakeholders in the pharmaceutical sector, the Federation of East African Pharmaceutical Manufacturers, Uganda Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, Tanzania Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, Federation of Kenya Pharmaceutical Manufacturers, Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, Research and Production Team led by Tifa Research, AI is on Production Limited, and my Happy Place. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. For those who may have joined late, my name is Dr. Anastasia Nyerita. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Healthcare Federation. Been in the pharmaceutical industry, a pharmacist, been in the pharmaceutical industry for the last 20 years plus in the region, both in manufacturing, commercial, and technical aspects. And I wish to thank you and wish you a very good rest of the evening. And we will stay connected, and we're looking forward to the next session, which is sometime next month, and we will stay in touch. So thank you very much, and do have a lovely afternoon.